Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that moves the needle. It is self-care that is strategic. It's self-care that usually requires a guide because it's not simply acts of luxury. It's not even the things that we often think of as self-care, like bubble baths or chocolate. It's not manicures, it's not pedicures. And of course, those are all valuable and worthwhile, and I love all of them. And if those are your only self-care practices or you're not even there yet, then there are other solutions. And lots of people say, well, I just don't have time for self-care. But when you know about what courageous self-care is and that it happens mostly on the inside, it makes everything in your life better. It transforms your relationships. It gives you more health and vitality. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning. And I think most importantly, it helps you understand at a deep level that you are enough. You are deserving and you are alive, fully alive. So I mentioned that often we need a guide because this is uncharted territory for a lot of people. I've been deeply studying over the last 10 years or so, personal development, metaphysics, quantum theory, and everything in between. And I just find that it has made so much more of a difference with the kind of energy I have and the way that I'm able to give to my loved ones. So like I said, we need a guide. And today it's not just me. I also have another guide with me. I have Dr. Christine Sauer from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jen. Christine, thank you very much, Christina, for the intro. That was very nice. And yes, it's very true.
Yes. So, Christine, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to these days.
Well, I call myself Dr. Christine, the brain doctor who knows how you feel, because I help people that are sad and tired and fatigued and don't feel good. And as a doctor with a medical background, I'm a conventional and a naturopathic doctor trained in Germany. I work actually as a health coach most of the time, and I address physical, mental, and spiritual root causes of those diseases, which are really not diseases. That's just everybody struggles with life sometimes, and I help them in their struggles, I honor their struggles, and I help them get well and live a life full of passion and purpose, happy and healthy.
I love that you said that you cover all of those different areas because truly we can't separate. We can't take our brain out of our bodies and work on that. We can't just segment and say, okay, now I'm going to learn about spirituality. It all affects the whole person. And I think that's so valuable that you have a medical background and that you're willing to look at all the other stuff too.
I completely agree. And of course, I have my own story of survival of mental and physical illness and experience. And that is very humbling, from being an inpatient in a mental hospital to being back to a thriving life. It's quite a story.
Wow. Well, we will get into that, I'm sure. And I feel like when we go through these challenges, it's so difficult. It's soul searching, it's heart wrenching, and we can ask ourselves why. But then when we come through it, the answer to the why is, I went through this so that I can help other people not experience the same kind of suffering that I did.
Or at least shorten it a little bit and guide them to the light a little earlier.
Yes, condense time for them. So, Christine, what would you say is your favorite current self-care practice?
I have 3.
Okay.
Because I feel it's very important. And number 1 is every morning I go out, we have backyard chickens, so I sing to the chicken.
Oh, I love it.
My favorite songs are either Enjoy Yourself, It's Later Than You Think, or I sing to them my favorite hymn, Then Sings My Soul, which I love. And they say gagak, and appreciate it and lay eggs. And that way I connect with the spiritual world. Then I go in, have breakfast, do a little bit exercise. My favorite exercise is Tai Chi. It's meditative exercise, and I found whether you like yoga or Tai Chi doesn't really matter. For me, yoga is not good for my back because I was suffering from chronic back pain, which I know I'm cured from. And I do Tai Chi because I feel it's better for me, and it's a nice meditative exercise. It is very efficient in relieving stress. And I just love it because it's also really get me sweating. So I do that. And then I have my morning and evening routine, which is self-care, because it means I set an intention for the day. I say, what do I want to accomplish today? Who do I have to contact? What do I have to get done? And what can I really let go on the wayside, because I need a little bit time for my family, my husband, my brother-in-law, my dogs. Well, they are past by now, but maybe we'll get new ones. And in the evening, I look back on the day and I say, did I get done what I wanted to do? If not, why not? Did I get anything important not done? But I do it in a loving way. I don't beat myself up. And if I'm really worried at night, I do a brain dump. That means I write down everything that's gone to my mind that I really have to get done, and just put it on paper. And then the next day I can either throw the paper away or get it done.
Oh, you said so many very helpful things, so I want to know a little bit more. I have some questions for you. So first of all, when was the first time that you sang to the chickens, and why did you do it?
I sang to the chickens. We got them about 4 years ago. And I just hated to see how they treat animals in those big cages. And I didn't want to be a vegetarian. So I said to my husband, what can we do? And we live in an area where we are allowed to have chickens. So we got chickens. And when you see them happy, scratching, picking, flapping their wings, and it's just beautiful. So every time I go out and I collect the eggs, I say, thank you, girls. You do a good job. And we also have meat birds in the spring. So then I'd say to them, hey, thank you, eat good, you'll be amazing in the roaster, you'll taste beautiful. And they don't mind. And it helps to overcome that you know the chickens, but you want to eat them. And
Yeah.
that's a shift of mind, but I'd rather have the chicken that I knew had a good life, except for the last day, instead of the chicken that didn't have a good life and not a good death either.
That is such a wonderful story. I love that. And it makes me think of my granny, who is also from Germany. She and my grandpa had chickens, and I remember going out and collecting the eggs. And there's something just so soothing about being in the hen house and hearing their clucking and the warmth. And yeah, I can see how that would be very satisfying to do that.
It sure is. I learned a lot from the chickens.
I bet. Oh, I love that. No one on the show has ever told me about singing to chickens as a self-care practice. That is a first.
There you go.
I love it. And then I also wanted to comment on how you are being so intentional with your time. You're planning at the beginning of the day, you are setting an intention, you're being conscious about what you can actually accomplish, and then at the end of the day, doing a recap. And I think that is it's such a useful way to go through life, knowing what you want to do, then doing it, and then seeing how you did. Because
and in the whole process, being gentle to yourself, because life sometimes derails you. Something comes up, the husband comes and says, can you help me for a minute? And then it takes an hour. It happens, and it's okay.
Yes. And I think it gives so much more meaning and purpose to what you're doing if you know why you're doing it, rather than just going through the motions and doing it because that's just what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's better than just sitting on the Chesterfield watching TV every day, living day by day.
Yes, there's that expression that you can live 100 years or you can live 1 year 100 times. And I think by being intentional and doing the planning and the reviewing, you create a life where you're living with so much purpose and intention and joy and vitality, which is what we all want.
Right, and it really feels that way, and I totally enjoy my life now.
So thank you for sharing those self-care practices. Those are really useful. And for those of you listening, if you have chickens, now you can start singing to them. And if you don't have chickens, you can sing anyways. It's very healing.
That's good.
So what we'll move into now is the second half of the interview, where I like to hear your story of courage. And before we get into that, I just want to explain, if this is your first time listening to the show, the reason that I have guests share their story of courage is because the energy of courage is something that we often attribute to others and not to ourselves. However, every single person is courageous. We have different experiences with our levels of courage, but it's a muscle. We can grow it. And we don't have to do a whole giant thing all at once. We can take baby steps. And the energy of courage is contagious, which is what Brené Brown says. And when you hear someone else's story, it gives you ideas for how you can get through similar situations. And also it brings you closer to that energy so that eventually you don't feel like it's outside of you. You can recognize it within yourself and you can say, oh, this is a moment where I'm going to access my courage because I know that it's in me. So Dr. Christine, I am very much looking forward to hearing your story of courage.
Well, I have started to be very courageous very often in my life in the last 20 years. And it all started really, I was growing up being a people pleaser, not being aware of much then, except for science. That was my family thing. Then when I came to Canada, I had a lot of tragedy behind me. I had to give up my practice because my back gave out. I was depressed, and my ex-husband committed suicide, and I was left with 2 teenage sons and immigration papers to Canada. So the first act was actually coming to Canada, to Halifax in that part. And then at first it went worse because I felt horrible. I had nobody, the kids were not very supportive, well, typical teenage boys. And so my first real act of courage, like I feel, is listening to my inner voice, which I never had done in my life before. And the first time it happened was quite dramatic because I actually was trying to commit suicide myself. I was sitting in my van trying to hit a bridge post. And at the last minute, an inner voice said to me, Christine, you really don't want to die. You want to help. You want help. And I drove myself to the emergency room and found a resident that actually recognized how bad I was and admitted me to a mental hospital. And at the moment, I didn't feel courageous, but it was, because to be humiliated like that as a mental inpatient, and it's very humiliating, and submit yourself to the care of others. Looking back, it was quite courageous, and it's the start of my new life. And I still struggled for another 10 years before I finally decided to do something else with my life than just being the victim and struggling up and down. And struggle is okay. And we all struggle in life, and I honor everybody's struggle. And as you say, we all have courage in some way. And the next act of courage that I remember that was kind of funny, to end it on a funny note, is when I taped my first video. I started Tai Chi, and I said to my best friend when we did Tai Chi practice in her house, I said, why don't we tape me doing Tai Chi? But I don't want to be on the picture, she said. So, okay. So I taped it, but she was talking too. So I'm there doing Tai Chi moves, very basic beginner moves, and she was talking. So I had to put a different sound underneath. So I put march music underneath, and I watched the video back, and her cat is on it. And it's the worst video I've ever seen. And the act of courage was, I posted it on YouTube. It's still there, called WTF-exercise. And it has a cat in it. It's miserable. So check it out on my YouTube channel.
Oh, that's hilarious. That part.
And the thing is, nobody watched it. So then I relaxed and said, hey, it took a lot of courage to post it, but really it doesn't matter. And now I laugh about it because it's just it's funny. Now I'm on video all the time. I don't mind it no more. I make fun of myself, and it's fine. I actually have a Facebook group page that I don't use, Dr. Droll, with jokes. I like jokes. The funny doctor. I'm a very funny doctor.
Thank
I
you
can
for
be.
sharing your
I can be
story.
very serious. I can be very funny.
Yes, well, that makes up a very whole life, when we know when it's time to be serious, and then when we can lighten up and laugh at ourselves. That is so important. So thank you so much for sharing that story. There's so much powerful information in there. I appreciate your authenticity and vulnerability in sharing with us what you went through. And what I notice is that there were times when you were concerned about what other people were thinking about you with the video in a funny way, and then also like, what will people think of me if I go into a mental hospital, and submitting
Right.
yourself to other people's care. And so how would you say that people can start to get over that tremendous fear of caring so deeply about what other people think?
I think the main thing is to look above themselves and think about, in 10 years, in 100 years, really, does it matter? Will anybody think about you like that? I mean, you're wearing clothes that maybe you wear your jogging suit, or you didn't have a shower that morning and you had to be admitted to the emergency room, and you are so ashamed because you feel you stink. And in 10 years, does anybody care? Really? Does anybody give a shit? No. And that's how I think about it. When something bothers me, I think about it, and I think about the view from the moon or from the planets, and I think, does really anybody care about me? No. Everybody, and there's a saying actually in German, like a little fatalism, that says, everybody cares about themselves and nobody cares about me, just me. It's so true.
Yes, it is.
And you're worried about what others are thinking. In the end, you're thinking about what you're thinking about yourself.
Yes.
And you have to address that.
Yes. So the other thing that intrigued me in your story was right before you were about to hit the post or the beam, and you heard your inner voice. So that was the first time you said you really listened to it. After that, did it show up more often? Are you able to hear it more now?
Oh yes, I learned to tune into it and to find that it's basically the intuition telling me what's right and not right. That's how synchronicity or fate or destiny, whatever you believe in, hits your way. And that's how I met my now husband, who's a sweetheart. And that's how I ended up staying in Halifax, because I just love the country, I love the people, and I love my husband.
What a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as you're listening, there are so many important tidbits that you can take out of that. So trusting your intuition, which is one of the foundations of courageous self-care. Learning to lighten up and have more fun. That's another one of the courageous self-care foundations. And full self-expression is another one, which is expressing who you are courageously and boldly and bravely, sharing your gifts and talents without being concerned that how it will affect other people. Because more often than not, when we share truly who we are, then it gives other people permission to do the same. It doesn't bring people down, it lifts people up.
Very true, very true. Very good words.
So, Christine, I'm sure people are intrigued. And do you work with people just locally or at a distance?
No, I work online worldwide in English and in German. And you can find me, the easiest way to find me is on docchristine.com, D-O-C Christine, CHRISTINE.com. And you can add your name to my newsletter list, and then you can add your email and I'll email you back. And if you want to, you can contact me directly and we'll get talking. Of course, I'm on Facebook, Ask Doc Christine. That's my handle on Facebook, Twitter, and yeah.
Yes, you are ready and willing to help people who you said are sad and tired and are looking for something more.
Yeah, an integrative, like a holistic approach, really a root cause approach to their illness. That's what I do. And really, it helps the people enormously, because some tired people, they are so tired they can't get out of bed. And I help them first with certain supplements to get out of bed, and then we can work on their issues.
Oh, that sounds like such a wonderful approach. I deeply appreciate you sharing of yourself today. I'm so grateful that we were able to connect all the way across the country. And listeners, I encourage you to reach out. If you take away nothing but one thing from this episode, it's that we're not designed to do everything ourselves. It takes a lot of courage to reach out and ask for help, but it can only make our lives better in the long run. So I encourage you to do that. And if you're feeling like you are sad and tired and are looking for a holistic approach, please do contact Dr. Christine and take her up on her offer, and she will help you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. And if you enjoyed the show, let us know. Leave a like or share a comment, share the show with a friend. And if you have a story of courage to share, I encourage you to apply to be on the show. You can go to ChristinaMarlette.com and apply to be a guest. I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.